Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us. We'll just give it another 30 seconds or so and we'll get started. Still seeing a few folks trickling in, but I think the number is stabilizing. So in order to have as much time as possible for the conversation, I'm going to kick us off. I'm Anne McBride. I'm the Vice President of Impact at the James Beard Foundation. And I'm thrilled to be with you all today to talk about our State of the Independent Industry Report and do a mid-year check-in as we prepare for the 2026 report. And for that, I am joined by Deirdre O'Connell, who's one of the leads of the Deloitte Hospitality and Restaurant practice, and who will also be asking you some questions as part of the conversation. So the structure today is I will present some of the key findings of the report for you all. The report will also be linked in the chat. It's been on our website since February. You'll receive it in an email afterwards, along with a recording of this webinar. And then we will have a poll for you all to chime in. We will have a short chef panel with Samuel McCandless from Colorado and Diego Galicia from Texas to get a local pulse on the national data that is in the report. And then it will be time for you all to chime in on some of the same questions around the state of the industry and the key themes of the report, as well as predictions for the rest of the year and key themes you'd like addressed in the 2026 report. Deirdre, is there anything you'd like to add at this point? Oh, we may have lost Deirdre. I'll just, all right. So this conversation centers around the findings from our annual report, which is a collaboration between JBF and Deloitte. We started surveying the industry in fall 2021, and then in fall 2024 for this 25 report, we partnered with Deloitte to have a much more robust and in-depth product as part of that. There's very little data capturing the reality of the independent restaurant industry. So this is something, a lot of the data covers more high volume and more chain restaurants without reflecting really what's happening in your types of restaurants. And it's really important to have data because whether you're talking to the media, whether you're talking to investors, whether you're talking to your customers or talking to lawmakers, being able to ground what is pertaining to you and your operation in some more general data is really important. On our end, it's the kind of data we can also use for grants to develop research and programs that support you all. So this is why we are doing all of this to really have this reality captured. And as I mentioned before, this is a nationwide survey. And when we've done roundtables and panels, it's great to have a local pulse on how this data is reflected around the country, and then, or is it reflected in localities? Everything is happening the same way everywhere, and their seasonalities also. We'll talk about that, obviously, with Colorado and Texas having different seasons of what's making for a very successful business. So I'm going to share my screen, unless, Anna, there's anything else that you need to be sharing at this stage on the PowerPoint? No? Okay, perfect. So I'm going to share my screen and try to open the right tab and not one of the 34 others. There we go. This should be the right one. Can you all see my screen? And does it look like a PowerPoint?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, perfect. Thank you. And let me do presenter view. There we go. You see the full screen?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, perfect. Great. All right. So some of the key data that we saw as part of the report, and let me make sure I'm advancing that. I'll preface also by saying that this is not advancing. Let me see this, if this does it. Sorry, all. Normally technology. Okay, there we are. So some of the key findings of the report allowed us to then identify four separate themes that we dive into throughout the report. And it's not just about highlighting the challenges that the industry is seeing, but really also surfacing solutions and strategies that are informed by peer-to-peer. So throughout the report, you'll see for each of the themes, some of the programs, the thinking, etc., that the respondents have put in place. And it's respondents both to a survey that we do and to focus group that we've done around the country. The Deloitte team met us at different events that we have, and we also hosted standalone roundtables to really get your voice in there beyond also just the survey section. So overall, in 2024, 54% of restaurants reported performing slightly better. Another key element was that restaurants continued to have to increase their menu prices, with the majority between 5 and 10% of increase, which was slightly less than what folks had to increase in 2023. Obviously, this is an area where there's even more uncertainty and fluctuation this year. So we anticipate that to continue being a key finding, and that'll be something that we dive in with Diego and Samuel in our chef panel portion. And you probably also all have things on that you want to talk about around your price increases. Customer traffic has remained about the same or has declined from last year. So 72% of respondents reported that. More restaurants increase their staff wages, 92%, and the majority increasing by more than 10%. Some of those increases are because in order to find or retain staff, there's no option but to increase wages. Some of it is also because of local or state legislation around increased minimum wage. So there are various factors here that that have an impact on this increase in wages. And then rising costs continue, food, labor, and utilities, all of that continues to be rising, obviously. Some of the key themes are around spending. So one thing that has been a really key number is this 15% that you see here under spend. There's a cliff there. Any respondent that increased their prices by more than 15%, so a decline in profit and less foot traffic, with an overall poor perception of the business performance. So up until 15%, that was fine. The diners were following along with the menu, with the price increases. At 15%, there's a cliff and a negative ROI on that. Loyalty was another big theme, and especially using social media in a way that's not just posting pretty photos of food. But one of the things that folks are doing that has been quite successful there is how to really expand the experience of dining into your social media sphere. So a lot of respondents, and you can see that a lot on Instagram these days, are posting their staff, right? And making a more all-encompassing story about your restaurant by using social media around this. And so this is a continued trend after increased food costs, the second largest trend for 2025. And then what we have also seen in the findings is people who expended benefits. So wages is one thing, but expending benefits to their team created more retention for staff and made it easier for folks to find staff also. So retaining and finding staff was helped by having opportunities for growth and overall benefits that could be tailored. Some of that might be flexible scheduling or these kind of things as a perceived benefit, an actual or perceived benefit. Some respondents might have had 401ks, some might have focused more on scheduling, depending on the type of business, etc. And then another thing around growth and testing new business model. That was another big theme as part of that emerged in the survey, and in slightly different ways. That's something we had seen a lot in 2020 and 21 when restaurants were trying a lot of different things to see what worked and what would create revenue. What this report identified this time is that what is most successful is testing different models with a strategy and computing data, really looking at the results that come out of this, rather than trying anything and see what sticks. Because oftentimes it can confuse the consumer, the diner, if you're trying too many things and they don't know who you are anymore and what's your unique point of view. So doing things with a strategy there has been helpful. We see 85% of restaurants tried at least one thing. Some of the things that have emerged are, for example, if you're a daytime cafe having a pop-up at night, working with other organizations, other businesses in town, et cetera, to give you a different type of revenue. And sometimes it's also, in the case of pop-ups, for example, it's making another type of clientele who doesn't yet know you, aware of you. They might just think of you, or they might not know you at all, but they might be following a chef who's doing a pop-up in your restaurant, and then that opens your business to this new customer base. Wait, it changes which screen. There we go. So here are the key trends to watch that emerge in the reports. Just another way, another framing around what I just mentioned. Trend number one, overcoming barriers to guest spend. This is where we have that 15% cliff around menu prices. And then here you can see that 63% of restaurants raised their menu prices. And 3% of restaurants, only 3% raised over 25%. But on average, between 10% under 10% increase, and then 10 to 25 as a smaller subset of that. And then the intentional engagement with the guests. So here, overall, 88% of respondents reported more customers in 2024, and then 25% reported fewer customers in 24 than the previous year. So, overall, those were pretty good indications from the respondents of solid business by that time. Over last fall. So one of the things that we'll dig around today that we'll discuss and want to hear from you all, has any of that changed in the first half of 2025? The new ways to attract and retain a winning team, obviously really key. And one of the things that we've talked a lot about in presentations like that and to industry groups around around this part, the fact that overall restaurants that that paid more wages and offered more benefits had a higher business performance here. So you can see 55%, 58% here reporting excellent and good business performance, excellent and to good business, I should say good to excellent business performance with a greater wage increase versus the 40 restaurants with 0% wage increase that were only 47% reported a good to excellent performance. So you have an 11% disparity there between a high wage increase and no wage increase in terms of overall business performance. And then the urgency around testing new models. So here are some of these examples here. 86%, as I mentioned, have implemented at least one of them. And that includes pop-up restaurants, that includes seasonal staff versus the same staff year-round. Some things that chefs have discussed in some of our roundtables is having, for example, Florida and New Hampshire ski resort staff swap basically because they might be less busy at a different time. So that hasn't yet happened, but having this kind of having two restaurants trade staff, but depending on business, could be an interesting model for some folks. Cross-training front of the house and back of the house is something that also just gives more flexibility in places where if there's a service charge, or in places like New York where you cannot tip pool, that's also another way to increase the wages of your kitchen staff in some cases. Flexible scheduling, as I mentioned, has been very popular. And then outsourcing non-core function, this is marketing or PR or accounting, some functions like that. We're relying more on outside conglomerates, groups, etc., who can provide that support without needing to have someone full-time in-house for it. All right, so this was a very, very brief overview of some of the key findings of the report. You can download it by using this QR code right there. And as I mentioned, you will also, if you haven't read it yet, you will also receive it in follow-up in an email, and you will find the link in the chat. So, Diego, and let me just get my windows situated here. Diego and Samuel, I'm really curious to hear your perspective on these numbers, and I'll summarize them as part of my questions to you. But I'll first introduce you all, if I can again find my. Where is that? There we go. Diego Galicia is the chef owner of Mixtli in San Antonio, nominated for Outstanding Hospitality Award in 2025, Outstanding Restaurant in 24 among the James Beard Awards, also holding the only Michelin star in San Antonio. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's right.
And a JBF bootcamp alum. Samuel McCandless is the executive chef and partner of Corrida and Seaburger in Colorado, where all of the outlets have a deep focus on regeneratively raised beef. And he's one of the few chefs who is actually taking on having cattle as part of their operations. And Samuel is a bootcamp alum from our most recent bootcamp. So welcome both. It's really great to have you here. Any immediate reaction, never mind the theme, but to these numbers, and any thoughts you have on how does this reflect what you've experienced?
Yes,
It
at least
does
for us.
me. Yeah.
Yeah, sorry,
Go
Sam,
ahead.
go ahead. Yeah. No, please go ahead.
For me, it reflects it a lot. Just with like, giving people a better wage and keeping staff on, for like, pushing events help us tremendously. Like, that helps our restaurant so much. And then people come to an event, they're like, we didn't know about you guys. And then they come back as regular diners, right? Um, benefits, I think, keep staff retention high. And the tipping structure too is huge for us in Colorado. We're fortunate enough to be able to have whole house tip pool. And that is kind of like, that's what keeps us going, especially with the housing costs in Boulder being crazy, crazy, crazy high. It's hard for people to like make a living here. And that's how we do it. But those are the main things that much spot on with what the graph said and what everything you said. So
Thank you, Diego.
One thing that I've noticed through the year, last year and then half of this year, is that the people are really reactive to what happens politically in the country. If the news are gloom and doom and it's recession coming, people literally stop spending money, and I can see that firsthand. Something happens in the news, say there's a tariff coming up, our ticket sales go down at the restaurant. There's a threat about a tariff, this other thing, or a product that we bring from Mexico. Our wines recently, they got tariffed, and so that puts a stop to our ticket sales. And it's pretty scary because people react to what happens on the news all the time. I don't think there's been a more difficult time to run a restaurant than it is now. Pandemic seems like a breeze. Things are very challenging during this time. So that's one thing that I've noticed, as politically people react to that quite a bit.
That's interesting that you're saying that. So before the price increase is even reflected on your menu, people are already sort of proactively not going out.
Yeah, at least for us, Mixtli is it's not a necessity, right? It's a luxury item. People, when they start to budget and cut their spending, they're gonna stop spending on gym memberships, on yoga classes, on restaurants like mine. And I can tell, I can see it right off the bat. And it's something that we have to really be really mindful and careful about when we do our monthly budgets for the restaurant.
No kidding. So that's a really great segue to talking a little bit more in depth about the first theme around overcoming barriers to increase guest spend, and this idea that you need to create more than ever an experience for people to want to commit to dining out with you, right? And not just being like, well, I'll eat at home, although that's not really cheaper either, and or just having more demand around what value is, and not necessarily value in terms of low cost, but feeling that what you're spending was well spent. So how are you two approaching pricing and menu strategy? And have you found a ceiling of what customers are?
Yeah. You don't want to price yourself out of the market, and it's very easy to do in a restaurant. For us, we have tickets, and the price doesn't come out of nowhere. There's a reason why. Um, I've seen there's a restaurant in Houston that I saw recently, get expensive tasting menu. They priced themselves out of the market because they were so expensive. Here in San Antonio, very large city, still one of the poorest cities in the country. So we've found a sweet spot because we've tried to increase the price and then we find the resistance of it. We're like, okay, tickets don't move at this price. Let's bring it lower. Our price increases go by 5% every time. And we maybe increase the menu once every 2 years. Recently, and I'm talking about the last 2, 3 weeks, our ice machine rentals went up 30%. Like things are going up, but we cannot aggressively increase prices ourselves. We need to be really mindful how we do that because we don't want to price ourselves out of the market. What we do at the restaurant, we emphasize our storytelling. We put so much value in our storytelling because to us that's free, and to the customer it holds a lot of value. So yeah, very food costs we cannot increase it too much, but our value in storytelling, in intangibles that make the experience kind of feel fuller or more valuable. Those things are free. And the customer comes, they get a really cool story of Mexico, they get a really cool story of the ingredients, of the dishes, of the explorations we're doing, and to us that's free because it's history. We just have to really speak well about it, and people leave the restaurant full, but also thinking, hey, that was really cool. There was a lot of information, and from an operating standpoint, it's free. It's a free bulk that we can throw in there as well.
What about you, Samuel?
I
And
think we go ahead.
no. I was just
Oh,
I messaged my team, but if they could please take down this slide and have your actual live faces bigger on the screen. There we go. That's perfect. Thank you. Go ahead, Samuel.
us, like we're we're a great expensive restaurant, and people know that before they come here. But I also try to push things that are very like value driven, which helps us like for tapas and for late night, and then we push events really hard, and just get like not so like I want to say you're getting the same experience, but it's not like you don't have to go crazy and buy a ultra expensive dry aged steak every time you come here. So giving people more options when they come here, we're a bigger space too. Um, so that helps a ton. And then in our smaller locations, like events help us, and for food costs too, because like I can price things down on my normal menu, which gives people a better value in the normal menu setting. And then the events, people are willing to spend more in events, kind of like weddings and things like that. And we're fortunate to be able to do that as well. But that's how I kind of make my margins work. Because like you said, it's like the food costs what it costs, and you have to make the margins to make your restaurant work, right? So that's kind of our approach, is like pushing events. We throw parties, like rooftop parties. We get musicians in here, and it's like we don't make money on those events, but we get promotion, right? And that's like we do social media and all that, but like that's kind of our avenue to combat changing prices. And I really try very, very hard not to push our prices up too much unless I really, really, really have to.
Mhm.
Because I mean, I know I want a value when I go out, and I think people when they come here, it's going to cost a good amount of money, but it doesn't have to like kill you. And then I don't know. That's kind of what we do, I guess, here at Corrida.
Great. Thank you. So
Thank
I think
you.
this is a good lead. You two are like doing the perfect segues from theme to theme. So thank you for that. The second theme is around intentional engagement to deepen guest connection, and the for um, including the storytelling and learning really the importance of online storytelling with real life, with real world experiences to deepen that customer relationship. Social media is a new tool that, or it's not a new tool anymore, but it's an additional tool that is at our disponibility. It's something that you can do for free, essentially. That's of course not the case. Restaurants are constantly hiring either social media managers or photographers to help craft the content, all these kind of things. But that has really, with great social media strategies, really comes a lot of in-person engagement as a result. So, and that helps create more loyalty with customers, more personalized connection, and then being intentional with social media efforts drives traffic. So I'd love to hear from both of you how you're doing that and how you're engaging with the digital engagement piece and also creating the meaningful in-person engagements that Samuel, for example, you described, having events that are not making you money but are good promotion. So what's working to bring people in and to keep them coming back? In the case of your rooftop events, how do you track that that's actually translating to customers coming back?
It's hard to say. Like, I'm sure everybody here has tried like the influencer thing, and we actually just got rid of our PR company and started working with a great photographer to kind of elevate our social media experience. But like, so it's like I'm saying, it's hard to tell other than like your business is growing, and it's like I don't know how to like track it. So if anybody does know how to do that, like I'm all ears. But we started these events like 2 years ago, right? And the first ones were not. It was really cool, 3 Grammy Award worth winning musicians, all you can eat, all you can drink, and it was like, where is everybody? Like, what's going on? And now they're like packed, and people have a ball, and it's like, but it like sometimes things like that do take, it's not an overnight success story at all. So it's like persistence, and then it's pretty obvious when you see the event go from not that many people to a lot of people here. I think that's the best metric I have. It's just kind of an organic feeling. Maybe not the best for like tracking tools and stuff, but it feels right, if that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
I'm sure Deirdre at Deloitte can tell you some ways to track that better.
well, I would love. I'm all ears. I love that. Thank you.
The and I think what you're also saying in terms of sticking to the point of view and the vision you had for that ties to the fourth theme around trying new business models. And sometimes, and sometimes it's an economic obligation to give up on an idea before it's had time to fully take root in the market, and you just
Sure.
keep it going. But sometimes it is about just giving enough time for the audience to find you, and then it becomes successful. So kudos for that. Diego, what
Yeah.
about? Oh, sorry. No, no, I'm sure you have. Did you want to chime in, Samuel, on what I just said? No? Did we to you
Sure.
around
Well, yeah. So Michelin is now a 12-year-old restaurant. So we have a lot of a benefit in the fact that we're an older restaurant. We're established. We change our menus, 4 times a year. So we've created a revolving door of customers that come to every tasted menu. So we have, thousands of people in our newsletter, and every time tickets come up on the menu, they all come back again. So it's really cool to see it run kind of like just like two gears, kind of going around each other. But that took 12 years to achieve. We still do the festivals. We still do Austin Food and Wine. We do Hot Luck. We travel around the country in different festivals that we get invited to kind of keep, the restaurant still out in people's minds. I've always said that a restaurant's like a light bulb and you're a little moth, and you have to always be in that little light. The moment you are away from the light, people have this very small retention of restaurants because there's so many happening all the time. So you have to stay in that little light bulb and kind of like a bee just going around the bulb and staying relevant. But at the beginning, we used to do everything. Every festival that we get invited to, every TV segment that we did, that we got an invite. So you have to stay in the spotlight and you got to fight for that space to stay in people's minds. And now these days with social media, it's so difficult because I have my own Instagram and then I do the restaurants, but then you gotta put your boundaries up as well. Social media is definitely poison if you kind of like stay on it all the time. So I have a small kind of threshold for that, and sometimes I just put up a wall and I dedicate Mixtli Instagram 10 minutes a day, and I just turn it off. It's a lot. You have to preserve yourself as well. So these days, you gotta be chef, you gotta be plumber, cleaner, social media guy, you gotta be therapist, you gotta be dad, you gotta be husband. So having those boundaries that are healthy, that I'm kind of learning to put on these days, it kind of lets me kind of stay sane in the whole chefing world. But yeah, it's hard.
Yeah, it's a lot, and the demands, the new jobs you have to take on definitely never seem to stop. The
I just wanted to cook. That's all I want to do.
Origin story, right?
Mm-hmm.
Someone put a question in the Q&A, or said in the Q&A that they ask each table how they discovered us. So you can certainly use the Q&A to be sharing some of sharing some of your own input there, or you can use the chat as well for that purpose. I think you should be able to use the chat. Everyone should be
Mm-hmm.
able to use the chat, so feel free to chime in on these topics as we open up the discussion. And I made a note of that, and I just want to surface it. The fact that Samuel, you got rid of your PR company to invest that money in a photographer instead is a really interesting strategy. And Diego, the fact that you do your own social media, which a lot of folks do, also for that more direct connection with diners is another one.
Yeah, I
The
mean, we started talking to, everybody that our PR team was talking to. We kind of know. So it's like, um, they're almost like a middleman, and they're great. Like I'm not, like I speak very highly. But it's like, well, maybe we should try something else, and we're just trying it out. We had a PR team here for 7 years, and it was like some of the ROI wasn't there. Um, and so it's like if we reach out directly to whoever we're working with, like, aren't we kind of getting to know the people we're working with a little bit better? And we're just trying it out, and hopefully it works. We haven't seen the results yet. We are doing better this year than last year, but this is like 3 months in. So it's just trying new things. Um,
Yeah, we're taking the wins where we can these days, so that's a good thing. I'm gonna move us to our third theme, new ways to attract and retain a winning team. So, as I mentioned in going through the survey results, the uh, you know, raising wages is still something that was a significant part of it. So 58% of those raising wages, over 25% reporting excellent or good business performance. Overall, 70% of survey respondents raised pay more than 10% in the last year. And then despite all of this, though, it's still really hard to meet the staff's monetary needs where they are. You mentioned, Samuel, increased cost of housing in Boulder. That's something that's happening in many, many parts of the country where people cannot afford to live where they work. That happens even in certain neighborhoods of certain cities, right? So that being able to meet the staff monetary need remains a really big challenge. And then there's also these other ways, because at some point, what we also hear a lot about is, as a small business owner, you just hit a ceiling and you simply cannot pay more, right? Like even if you wanted to, or you usually want to, you cannot pay more. So what are some of the other things that you're doing, whether it's personalized benefits that align with an employee's career and lifestyle goal? You educate them on ways to maximize perk. Diego, years ago, you had told me that you were telling your staff who was not taking you up on health insurance, you're like, think of your portion to pay as the price of a cocktail after work on a Friday night. And I've used that so often as an example of how to phrase it in a way that would make someone who's 22 want to invest in their health insurance for the future. So what are, obviously there's raising wages, but what's beyond compensation or some of the things, some of the strategies or programs that you've implemented in your restaurants that have made the biggest difference in attracting and retaining talent?
Yeah, if I may, Sam, if I may start this question. So we used to have our staff on Blue Cross Blue Shield. Major insurance company. The insurance company is it's this weird mafia thing, and we stopped using the traditional insurance companies. We found one thing called direct primary care, and it's basically doctors with their own practices. I pay them a monthly fee per employee, which is $80 per employee, and they have a concierge doctor service. They can call any day. They can go as many times as they want a month. They get medications, they get blood work, they get scans, and the restaurant pays for it fully. I have 20 employees. I pay $85 a month per employee, and they have their own doctor that takes care of them for whatever they need. It's way cheaper than traditional insurance. The doctor's incredible doctor. Her husband's my own doctor. So I think these programs are awful. These practices are offered throughout the country. It's called direct primary care. And that doctor, yes, and that doctor is the doctor for everybody. As far as wages go, I can tell you right now that no one can live on minimum wage in this country. It is literally impossible. So we try to really find really cool ways to support our staff. For example, our bar director and our SOM, they get 10% of wine sales for our SOM and 10% of liquor, beer sales for our bar director. Whatever it is. If we sell $1 million in wine, she gets 10% of that. If we sell $1 million in cocktails, she gets 10% of that. It fluctuates through the year, right? The busier times, they make more money, they make less money, but the 10% of wine, liquor, and beer sales are theirs. And then with kitchen staff, we try to give quarterly raises, a couple bucks, $3 here and there. Then again, we're one small operation. We're a pop and pop restaurant, so it's hard, but we try to really, really take care of our staff as best as we can. They all have dental vision paid by the restaurant, and they have their doctor with direct primary care. That's more than I was ever offered when I was a line cook elsewhere. So.
That's pretty amazing. That's amazing. I'm super inspired. Our pay is like we have a whole house tip pool. In Colorado, we can do that. And then it's just kind of based on merit. You can bump up percentages of how much tips a person gets. So you can keep hopefully not have a ceiling over people's heads to keep them growing. I work personally. We have a lineup every day at all the restaurants. I'm sure you do too, Diego. Mm-hmm. But that's kind of like the engagement that I found is that's what keeps if you can pay people what's market rate or slightly higher, it's then everybody gets an opportunity to feel seen and grow. That's nothing new, right? But that's how I found to keep staff here at Corrida. I have a hard time. I always have a staff, which is super rare. Some of the other restaurants where we don't have that, it's harder. So it's trying to keep things personalized and individual to the person, and then obviously sitting down with people one-on-one, 4 times a year. If you can tell something's off with somebody, and they're having a hard time, making sure that you address it right away. So you don't have somebody that's you can tell when people want to speak and you've got to be there for them. And I think that's just old fashioned empathy and caring for people. But that makes a huge difference. And I think everybody would do that naturally, but those are kind of what worked for me. I like Diego's. I like you. That was very inspiring. Thank you.
And I understand, benefits can be only paid if the restaurant's making the money. I believe that 1,000%, so if somebody out there has a restaurant and you want to offer all these things, well, you got to make sure the business can afford them. And if you're out there and you have a restaurant and you want a free way to retain staff, have an amazing work environment. That's a big one. It's a huge one. Yeah. They want to come into work. They don't want to leave. The other chefs are their friends. A free way to retain staff is having a really cool place to work. That's totally free. You don't have to do anything. You have to just be kind and empathetic and take care of the team as best as you can. Be there for them, support them, mentor them, push them in the right direction, challenge them. If you have a cool work environment, they're not going to want to leave, because I promise you, it's really bad out there. And if you just have a cool place to work for them, it's gonna be huge.
Yeah, we do use Anthem, and so now I'm gonna look up that. So we have benefits too, but that sounds really cool. Anyways, go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was just going to emphasize that the fact that empathy and care should be the rule for any work environment, and that's not the case. So I think that definitely distinguishes the two of you and many others, who did answer our survey and all of that. So um, so Deirdre, I'm gonna throw it to you, and then there are some questions in the chat that I want to take on, and then this is also the opportunity for any of you in the chat to start weighing in. We have a survey for you all that I think we can put on the screen, but Deirdre, your turn.
Yeah. And did you want to jump into the survey now or do some closing questions with the panel first?
No, I think I'll do the closing question at the very end because I want the folks in the chat to also chime in on those closing questions.
Perfect. So what we're going to do here, we want to get everyone's opinion on this poll. The first question here is around in this current year, how much have you changed menu prices on average? I think if Diego, we heard from you, I think a little bit of a perspective on this, but curious to see if that kind of trend spreads wider to others. The second question is more around how much have you changed your marketing, trying to get that engagement, having to get people back in. What of some of the tactics have you personally done? The third question is around how you've addressed some of that staffing or teaming challenges or opportunities at your restaurant. We've just had a great discussion on that. And the last question is around some of those new revenue streams. We talked about this about a bit at the beginning, but what are some of the things that you may have tried? So we'll give everyone a couple more seconds on that. And then I think we'll be able to show the results of that poll. And I think as we just wait for the results to come up, I will say, as Anne said, Deirdre from Deloitte in our restaurant practice. And so as we have the survey here, a lot of the rich dialogue, comments in the chat, we are all keeping these as we work to partner with JBS, JBF on the State of the Independent Restaurants report. And so that's where this will go. We have the report from last year. All of these insights will be at different events, but we just want to make sure that that chef voice is really amplified and those learnings, so that we can, it's going to feed into all the great programming activities that Anne and her team are doing. And so we want to keep getting that feedback on what's most helpful. And for us, we want to make sure that we are being that ally in the broader ecosystem to help bring in the right tools, assets, perspectives to make you all more successful in your restaurants and amplify any of those needs. Okay, I think we should be able to have the results of the poll. Anna, do we have those? I think you should be able to project them onto the screen.
Do we have to end the poll first? There we go.
Okay, perfect. I think for the first question, we see increasing either, most popular was between that 5 to 15%. Others are doing that less than 5%. I think that's consistent with, some of that perspective of trying to figure out what that willingness to pay is, but not going too far past that and really testing what the opportunity is. Social here. Yeah, use social media more. Resounding kind of winner on that. Influencers or bloggers, I think, plays into that. I know I'm seeing a lot more of local activation for social campaigns and how you use that local network, especially in some of the social media aspects. And then teaming. I mean, I think what is great here, there's just a lot of responses, increasing wages or benefits, flexible schedules, staff training, team culture. Culture one is we just emphasize a lot on that. How do you have that right environment? It is great to see a lot of those aspects. I think curious to see some of the referral or hiring bonuses was very low there. Reduced menu or hours, so trying to reduce complexity, probably something that it seems like people are doing less of this year. I think we've seen that bigger last year. That one popped more. So like to me, that's a change potentially on the horizon. And then the last question. Oh, this one's interesting again, too. So, of the new revenue streams or business models, it's interesting just seeing it, like some of the arc here. Last year, we saw a lot of tipping structure and staffing models. Those were really popular tactics that were being tested here. The new offerings of pop-ups, catering, meal kits. I think we've heard a lot about events as well, and partnering with other businesses. I think those are definitely things I'm very curious if anyone has any comments on that when we get into discussion or type in the chat, because I think those are areas and that I don't think we saw as much last year that I'm very interested to hear a lot more about, especially that partnering with other businesses.
Yeah, some of the things we've anecdotally heard, especially around the holidays, for example, is hosting a holiday market or hosting a florist or partnering with a florist, like some type of business that would attract a similar customer as your business. We're hearing a little bit more of that, this kind of cross-marketing that's very grassroots at the local level again.
Yeah, I love that. Any
And if I
other
may say something,
reactions? Yeah, go ahead.
sorry, real quick. If anybody out there that has a restaurant and they want to offer their team how to make more money, recently we started letting our team use the restaurant Sundays for their own pop-ups. They'll have their ideas and they'll have their own restaurant ideas and they want to pilot them. So we let them use their, well, letting is such a weird word. We allow them to use the restaurant, and that way they have a kitchen that's fully equipped and they have tables and chairs and they can launch their ideas and their concepts. And recently, 2 weeks ago, we had one of our chefs do his pop-up and he made a couple of grand, like in a single night. So for a 23-year-old young chef that wants to do a little bit of a side hustle, let him use the space and let him make that money. And it's great for them. They get to make a little bit of money more. It's great for their plan of having their own restaurant at some point. And it just feels good that they get to make a little bit more money, because restaurants are small. We're kind of capped off in what we can pay sometimes. So just let them do their thing in the restaurant, and it's going to be great for them.
Do you put any parameters around that? Like, do they have to pitch it to you, or is it first come, first serve?
The only rules are, if you're going to hire some of your teammates, it's on you. You're going to pay them. Just take care of the restaurant, take care of the place. Don't break anything. Just leave it clean how you found it. That's it. If you're going to hire staff, that's all on you. You're going to play operator, and you're going to be me for that day. And that's it. If you buy stuff to the restaurant, just reimburse it. I'm not talking about oil or sugar. If you buy like a lot of meat or foie gras or caviar, please pay it back. Otherwise, enjoy it, have fun, experience what it's like to run your own restaurant for even a day. And a lot of times, most times, actually all times, the next morning they're like shell shocked. They're like, I cannot imagine. I'm like, that's what it's like, So, but let them use the spaces and let them make a little bit more money, and they'll be happier. You'll be happier, and it's a good learning experience for them.
Gives them more appreciation for what you do. Someone is asking, how do they run sales if they use their own POS?
They don't. So at Mixtli, we have a Talk, which is a ticketing system. And then we have Toast, which is our in-house POS. So if they sell their tickets through Talk, I just write them a check. I keep the sales taxes. So I write them a check. I write them a check for their tickets sold. If they sell anything to the in-house POS system, I write them a check for whatever they sold. If they sold, their own, kombucha, or they sold their own whatever, I just write them a check. All I do is keep the sales taxes. That's it.
Great. getting some good feedback on that idea in the chat, which is indeed it doesn't cost you anything. Am I understanding that correctly? It costs you zero. You don't make any money off of it, but it's a great way to give your staff a raise or a
Yeah, if
bonus.
you're a 22-year-old kid that works at a restaurant and your chef lets you, again, allows you to use the restaurant. I'm not letting anybody do anything. Dude, you can make a couple grand. And imagine for a 22-year-old kid that's still trying to figure it out, that's pretty good money. So yeah, it cost me nothing, you know.
And Mark Diego did say that they reimburse the restaurant if the ingredients are high cost, not something like oil and sugar, but more if they're ordering great beef from Samuel, for example, they would probably reimburse.
Right. Yeah. If it's sugar, eggs, butter, milk, I'm not concerned. If it's foie, caviar, some obscure rest ingredient from Iceland, then they're gonna have to pay it back.
Deirdre, is there anything else you want to surface from what we just heard?
I think I'm curious, are there any other examples? That was a great one there. Anything other with those partnerships of kind of going to market either with other businesses or other partners in the community, other things that you have that would be interesting inspiration for us?
And those of you
Well,
who are in the chat can be chiming in, answering that question in the chat as well.
I think the chef and artist mashups are really cool. My friend Jenner has a restaurant in Chicago called Esme, and Esme is very tied to art. So I believe his menus is always a collaboration between him, his kitchen, and an artist. And it's a wonderful product. Like it's an insane, beautiful menu. It's the whole restaurant gets art from the artist. So it's kind of artist and artist kind of supporting each other. So mashups between chefs and musicians, chefs and writers. It's really cool, and I want to see more of that. And the artist, gets to make a little bit of money by selling some of his artwork, and the chef gets to make money by, booking the night. So it's really cool to see artistry kind of helping each other out via food. It's really, really cool.
Samuel, do you do any collab like that?
Yeah, I mean, I guess we work with musicians, once a month right now. And we do have people from around town that bring art in. We do stuff with ballet, Boulder Ballet. Yeah, I didn't really think about that, but we actually do a lot of that. But yeah, I'm trying to think of things that we do. We do a lot of events.
And those are events where you also get that are being shared with the mailing list or the social media of these partner orgs.
Oh,
yeah,
absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah,
And a lot of times they use us as like we kind of host, and they do what they do. That works well for us. And we do if it's somebody that depends on their kind of economic status, I guess, if you will, and if they're doing something, if they're a high dollar company, we charge more, and if they're less, we charge less,
And that's one thing for all of you who are doing that, and I'm sure some of you already do it, but when you do events or things like that, where you're not controlling the guest list, for example, finding a way to get the names and contact information of the customers, because you can send a follow-up email. Sometimes folks might do a small discount or a free drink if you come back and you show this, etc. That's a great way to get other organizations, mailing lists, customer lists, etc., attracted back to your business. Deirdre, is it time for our closing questions?
I think it is.
I think it is. Which one do you want to start with? I'll let you throw the first one.
I guess I really just want to push on if you had to, put a stab down of this year versus other years, and what you really think is like the essence of kind of the change for this year in a couple of words. Curious what that would be for you when we think about 2025 going into 2026. What does that mean for you and your restaurant?
Yeah,
I know I started with a hard one.
Anyone in the chat wants to take that on?
to spark some thoughts as you go. Last year, for example, we heard a lot about like change at like a pivot point. Um, it was definitely right at that like inflection point. Guarded optimism, we heard. And curious if, what side of that, now that we're on the other side, if you had to, pick a couple of words to
I
describe
think
how you're feeling.
I think for me is radical acceptance. I think the political impact in restaurants is huge right now. Like I said earlier, if things are chaos in the news and the country's in a political storm, people get scared and they react to that. And I would like to see the country kind of go in a direction that things are calmer and cooler, and we can collaborate with other countries and establish real good commerce with them, because this chaos doesn't help restaurants whatsoever at all. Gas goes up, everything goes up for us. Gas goes up, Sam knows this, beef goes up. So I would love to see a cooler political climate where we can get along with everybody else. We can focus on really delicious food, really good service, without having to worry, if the news are going to be mayhem the next morning and more tariff threats, and that really hurts us a lot, quite a bit. So I've accepted that for the next 3 years, it's going to be a lot like this. So I'm hoping in the next go round of elections, we can go to a calmer place.
Sounds beautiful. Yeah, I mean, it's like we all have a mission here and we're all doing what we do, and it's like we got to stick to it, but how we stick to what we're doing is like radical acceptance. It's going to change. Like that's constant. Obviously positive thinking, I agree 100%. But our mission is doing great things for our staff, our restaurant. Mother Earth is huge, right? It's the cornerstone of what we're trying to do here in an upscale setting, and then not so much, but those things, the world needs that, and there's certain things that restaurants provide that we see people, right? And so those things, like they never change. It's how you get it done. We've all learned so much since COVID, and it doesn't seem like that's really stopping at all. So that's really what I got for that question that caught me off guard.
No, that was great. And I love in the chat the kind of like uncertainty. And I think it's just that mindset and the be nimble, got to be able to flex like a river. Like, I think that is I like that of you have to find the flow, and hopefully there's calmer waters for that ahead. But I think it's that mindset to approach it that really resonates a lot, I think, from things that we're hearing. That's really, really helpful.
Yeah, and I like this, what Carrie just put in terms of chefs providing an oasis for all types of people to escape. I would just remind you all, since I think it's a majority of chefs listening, don't forget to get to your own oasis. Don't just provide other people's oasis, because it's also really important for you all to make it through all of this and to protect yourselves from the strife and the uncertainty and everything that makes just life in general a little bit more challenging. So you take great care of other people, but don't forget to take great care of yourselves as part of this too. Self-care is key indeed. Well, any final words? We have 1 minute left. Anything else you want us to know? Anyone in the chat that you want to make sure we do cover in the 2026 report? So anything that you're like, this is what I'm hearing from everybody. And I'm loving all of the bootcamp alums chiming in the chat, or other Food and Wine Best New Chef alums also, and seeing the community that you all are forming, and just great.
Yeah. And if you think of any other topics you want us to ask, or if you want to know, part of, I think, what everyone found valuable are all the kind of tips and stories, if there are things you want us to put in our survey so that we can, aggregate all of those responses and then send them back out to you all in that report, all of those tips. Let us know, and we will try to make sure that those categories get added. And a plug to fill out our survey when it comes out.
Yes.
The more knowledge you drop on us, the more knowledge we can just share back. And that is the whole point, is to get that information aggregated and let us help kind of get the good word out of any of these kind of tips, ideas, best practices?
And we didn't do it last year, but I think we should do a virtual town hall like that too, of focus groups after the survey is done for you all to be anyone who wants to chime in. We do them in certain cities, but to do a virtual one for anyone who wants to join would be great. Anna and Emily are sharing our resources. We have some of you have participated in our Climate Solutions for Restaurant Survival campaign. We are also right now in the middle of, or at the start really, of an immigration campaign. We have a sign-on letter that I know some of you have signed already. And we will be following that up with toolkits and things that you can do in the coming weeks around immigration. And thank you, Allison, for putting forceworkplace.org into the chat, which is a great resource for immigration. We have a video recording of their session at our Chef Action Summit this year that we'll post hopefully this week. And then this slide here, this is our newest tool, ABCs of Accounting. It's an activity-based costing and optimization tool. A simple Excel spreadsheet, no need to subscribe or download any new technology. And this is to really help you control every single element that goes into the cost of your menu. So not just ingredient and the labor of the person directly preparing it, but everyone who at some point is touching the food. Anna just put a link in the chat that you can click on. And you can also in the tool include things like property taxes, credit card fees, all these kind of things to have a really complete picture of what a dish should actually be priced at. Once all of that information is in there, we have monthly virtual sessions to support that. Think of them as office hours. So the next one is next Monday at 2 to 3 Eastern, and there'll be another one in September. So be in touch with any questions you have on anything that we talked about today, any input you want to have, and hope to see some of you next week on the ABC's office hour and at some of our upcoming programs in person and virtually. Thank you all so much. Thank you, Deirdre and Jasmine at Deloitte. Thank you, Anna and Emily at JBF. And thank you so much, Samuel and Diego, for being part of this and just sharing so much information. And thank you to all of you for attending and chiming in the chat as well.
Awesome. Thank you so much. It was always a pleasure.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Bye, everyone.